Good morning. Welcome back to Proving Proverbs. I am Brad Casper, and this is where we read the text, absorb the knowledge, display the wisdom, and reap the blessings. That's what we're promised by the Most High. If we follow these words, these wise words, we will experience blessings in this life. And I'm not too sure about you, but I'm all about those blessings. And so this week we are diving back into chapter 28. And this chapter is a very, very good. Good's not the word. Great. It's a great chapter. And it's a chapter that I feel takes us back to these fundamental, foundational ideas that are very much the core, the very core elements of the scriptures that unfortunately have been lost. And I say that because in this chapter, what we will see is that the Most High God, Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahuwah, lots of names out there today for this God, but the one and only true God, he makes it very clear that in this life, we can experience blessings or curses. And depending on what path we take, because the path of the wise, this is the path that can experience the blessings, and the path of the foolish, well, this is the path that will experience the curses. And so it's God's intent, and always has been, to keep his people on this path of the wise, right? And so that's why he's given us his word to give us this wisdom so that we can stay on the correct path here through this life. And that in itself is what has been lost, because this wisdom, unless it is found in the New Testament, where they, Marcion, put that divider there between the Old Testament and New Testament, and he broke that book in half. Well, with that also came this idea that the information was also split in half, and that there was some difference between the first half and the second half of the book, when in reality, that should have never happened. And that really kicked off what I think was like the beginning of when that happened. Let's just say that for the majority of the followers of this book, they began down the wrong path immediately following this, because of this idea that the information that was found between these two, now these newly divided book now, where there was two parts to it, that the first half is different from the second half. And actually now we are at a point in time where that first half, well, it's old and done away with, and we really have no need for it. And we don't even need to pay attention to it. I mean, there's churches out there that claim themselves to be New Testament churches. I mean, you'll hear this a lot. It's something that, I remember when I first came into this, hearing this a lot, like, we're a New Testament church. And, over time, I began to understand, because of being a new follower, I began to understand what this meant. And, as I began to read the Bible myself and stop listening to, the voices at the pulpit, began to see that there was actually a different story that was presented here in this book, that, all of these 45 plus thousand denominations of Christianity claim to follow, as their source of truth. But unfortunately, for many of those, they have determined that the first half of the book is now null and void, and that it's done away with, and we don't need to pay attention to it. But it's interesting because a lot of these same voices, they'll go there for their eschatology. They'll go there for, the Psalms and Proverbs, as if, I guess, for some, that's not quite done away with yet or something. I don't know. But this whole idea that the first half of the book is now done away with, because that's what you'll hear, that we don't have to pay attention to that first half because that's old. That's the old covenant and that's all old information. And now there's something new here. And I do not subscribe to that thought at all. And I think anybody who reads this book in its entirety will come to the same conclusion, because if we're being honest and you leave all of those preconceived notions at the door and you just come into this open to the text, to what it actually says, and you don't impress any of that programmed dogma into your way of thinking as you go into this journey of searching out these truths, I think that you'll see that for many of these denominations, they have been led astray and they are operating very far from what I believe to be the truth. And a big part of that is in the law, right? I mean, this is unfortunately the word that has been translated in many, many areas of the scriptures from the actual word in Hebrew, which was Torah. And, Torah isn't necessarily law. A better definition for this word, or better translation or transliteration of this word, would have been teaching or instruction. That's what it is. And when I really think that if you were to go through the majority of these scriptures, and instead of everywhere where you see the word law, if you would then instead just put teaching or instruction in that area, it would change the whole dynamic of the scriptures. Because with law comes this idea of oppression, right? Law. And it's unfortunate because that's not really the intent of the Torah. The Torah was given by Yahweh to Israel, his chosen people, as a covenant, and basically the terms of the covenant. And unfortunately, the majority of the Christian world out there has rejected the covenant. And they believe that they're operating under the new covenant, when in fact the new covenant isn't a new covenant. It's actually a renewed covenant. It's the same. I mean, it is essentially a different covenant, but the terms of the covenant are the same, and they always will be, because, well, God doesn't change. And so this idea that things have changed here, not good. Because what we're going to see is when we turn from the Torah collectively as, a people, especially those who claim to be followers of, this way, people who claim to be, those who entered into this covenant through the blood that was shed on the cross by our Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus. Well, in large part, they have turned from the vows of this covenant. And when this happened the first time, those people were divorced. And that divorce ultimately is what led to the new covenant, because there was no way to enter back into this relationship with the Creator. There was no way back to the source. And so the new covenant provided this way. And that was through what Yeshua did on the cross, that now we can enter back into this covenant with this Creator. Yet again, the terms, the vows that were taken in this covenant, because it's very much a marriage covenant, they continue to be broken today. And we wonder why we look out into this world and it just seems like things are falling apart. Well, what I'd like to submit to you here today is that the reason we are seeing this is because we have once again turned from the knowledge and the wisdom of the Most High. We've rejected his Torah, his instructions, his teachings. And when we do this, we see all throughout Scripture, which we'll go over a few of the verses here in a second, the outcome's never good. And we are basically left to the vices of the world. And that's exactly what we see happening today. And so if we were ever to correct this thing and to get back to how humanity was intended to be, it involves rejecting that world and turning back to these instructions, turning back to the covenant, the Torah of God. And this is unfortunate because for many, they are so against this idea because they have been brainwashed and conditioned for so long into thinking that this thing is, done away with and it's old, that, it's almost, I think, virtually impossible for many to come back into a knowledge of the truth. But we're still going to keep trying, right? We're going to keep pushing the message because I know that there are still people out there that will be open and receptive to this information as I once was. And that once they start to look into this, they will see the truth for what it is, because that's what this book says. Christianity can say what they want about all these things, and they can cherry pick verses and, use things out of context to support this idea that that's all done away with. But when you are diligently and honestly seeking for the truth and you let all that go, this is what you will find. This is what you will come to. And I am absolutely confident in that because I've done it myself and I know what this book says. And that's what it says. And so let's look at a few of the verses here. This idea that when we turn from the Torah and we go our own way here and chase after our own things in this world, well, it just never ends good for us. And we see in Malachi 3:6, "For I, Yehovah, do not change. Therefore you, O children of Jacob, are not consumed." And so I wanted to provide this first because this shows that God does not change. I mean, this idea that the Torah is done away with and that we are now operating under some new law is not correct. And this is, the foundation of that understanding that God doesn't change. And if God doesn't change, neither does his expectation for his people and what that relationship looks like. And so, we can also even see in the New Testament, the Brit Hadashah in Hebrews 13:8, Jesus says, "I am the same yesterday and today and forever." And so, again, these things do not change. James 1:17. "Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows." Numbers 23:19. "Yahweh is not human that he should lie, not human that he should change his mind." And then again in Psalms 102:27, "But you remain the same, and your years will never end." And so, again, we see all through the scriptures, there's many examples of this where God, the Most High God, does not change. Okay. And so this idea that his instructions have changed, his teachings have changed, it's false. It's false. And as we will see here, when we turn away from these teachings and we don't listen to the wisdom of the Most High here and realizing that he is the creator of all things, and he has given us this instruction manual how to experience the best out of this thing, this life that he's plugged us into. Well, we're not going to experience what he intended for us if we are turning from the instruction manual. It's that simple. And when we look at this, this idea of what it looks like, the consequences of turning from the Torah, we can see in Leviticus 26 is a great example of this. We see in that, I'm not going to go through all of it. I encourage you to go look at Leviticus 26, read the entire chapter. But in it, there's terror and sickness, and Yahweh will appoint terror, wasting disease, and fever that consumes the eyes and causes sorrow of the heart. He defeats the enemies. And when we are, in this covenant with him, and we are following the terms of this covenant, he goes out in front of us and defeats our enemies. But today we see where we're being consumed by this, right? This evil that's in the world. And it seems as if the enemies are winning. Well, that's because, here in Leviticus, we see you will be defeated by your enemies, and those who hate you will reign over you. And I think that is exactly what we see happening today. Your land shall not yield its produce, and the heavens will be like iron. I mean, think about all the things that are happening today. I mean, it's unbelievable. And then these wildfires out west just consuming hundreds of thousands of acres of land, and it's just destroying. I mean, this is what happens, right? This is what it looks like when we turn from the Torah. And then, ultimately Yahweh will scatter you among the nations and draw a sword after you. And this is just, again, ultimately you are being left to the vices of the world and these people out here that are pure evil that reign over us. This is the oppression that we are currently in. We are once again, God's people are once again in bondage in Goshen, in Egypt. That's where we're at. Go read Exodus, because where Israel was at in the story of Exodus, in the slavery that they were in, we are in that same place once again today, because once again, we have turned our ear from the Torah and we've turned our backs on the Most High. In Deuteronomy 28, we see the same. Go read that entire chapter. But there will be curses everywhere. You will be cursed in the city and in the field, in your basket and in your kneading bowl. I mean, look at the sicknesses today and how these people rolling over us are basically, I mean, you have to know by now what's going on in this system, right? And how it's not for you. And all the chemicals that are being sprayed on the food and everything, this is leading to disease and sickness. And this is, again, what we're left to. You'll experience confusion and plagues. Yahweh will send on you confusion, rebuke, plagues until you are destroyed. And so when we, this is what happens. People's eyes are blinded to this common sense reality of what's taking place here because they've turned their back on God. And when they do, that wisdom is not bestowed upon them. And so these are the things that are happening. Poverty and oppression. You will be oppressed and robbed continually with no one to save you. Think about it. We are struggling financially today. We are sending all of our money overseas, to our ally, all this stuff that's going on. People are struggling to keep their head afloat in this economy. Here it is. It's right here in front of you. When we see other prophetic madness, the Lord will strike you with madness and blindness of heart. That's it right there. Blindness of heart. People cannot see this for what it is because they've rejected the Torah. They've turned their back on the Most High. Proverbs 28, here's again, this whole chapter is a chapter that supports being obedient to the Torah, the law, the teachings, the instructions of the Most High. We see one who turns away his ear from hearing the law, even his prayer is an abomination. That's a tough one for people. That's a tough one, right? This God is telling you, if you turn your ear from hearing the Torah, your prayers will be an abomination. All you have to be able to do is read to see this for what it is. Jeremiah 9, 13 through 16, because they have forsaken my Torah, I will feed them with wormwood and scatter them among the heathen. Look around, look around. Daniel 9:11, all Israel has transgressed the Torah and departed. Therefore, the curse and the oath have been poured out upon them. And again, we are there once again. We are in bondage, in slavery, because of our own choices to chase after the world and to reject the wisdom of the Creator. It's that simple. And I know this isn't popular, but look, if you want to see change in this world, we have to start with the pillars of truth. And this is it. This will never change. We will only continue in this direction if we continue to reject the teachings of the Most High. The very covenant, the terms of the covenant are the Torah. And if we reject the Torah, we are rejecting Him. The irony is unbelievable in the churchianity today because, they claim, oh, I follow Jesus. I'm a believer of Jesus. But then they turn their back on the very vows of that covenant relationship. Jesus did not come to abolish the law. He came to fulfill it and to show us what it looks like and how it can be done. And He did it perfectly. Now, we're not expected to. We could never do that. But that is the example that's set forth. And we should look to His life. And we can see that in His life and in the 2 commandments that people love to say, oh, there's only 2 commandments that we need to worry about today. Love your God and love thy neighbor. That's it. That's all we have to do. Believe Jesus, believe in Jesus, and love God and love your neighbor, and you're good. That's it. If you are truly doing those things, you are following all of the Torah, because that's what it was all about all along. And so all of the Torah and all of the prophets, all of it hangs on these 2 commandments. Love God, love your neighbor. We need to understand this very simple concept, folks. And when we reject it, collectively, this is what the world looks like. Take a look. Anyway, let's dive in. Chapter 28 starts out, the wicked man flees when no one is after him, and the virtuous man is bold as a lion. The fault lies with the headstrong when quarrels flare up. The discreet man quenches them. A wicked man who oppresses the poor, here is a devastating rain. And farewell, bread. Those who forsake the law, the Torah, have a good word for the wicked. Those who observe the Torah, the law, have no time for such. The wicked do not know what justice means. Those who fear Yahweh understand everything. Better a poor man living an honest life than a man of devious ways, rich though he be. A discerning son is he who keeps the Torah, the law. An associate of profligates brings shame on his father. He who increases his wealth by usury and interest amasses it for someone else who will bestow it on the poor. That's socialism. That's socialism. Again, look around. Although we live in a capitalistic society, look to New York City and their new mayor up there to see what this looks like, on a massive scale. He who turns his ear away from listening to the Torah, the law, his prayer is an abomination. That's a powerful verse. People really need to consider that. People really need to You should meditate on that verse over and over and over again and really let that sink in. Those who turn their ear from hearing the Torah, their prayers are an abomination. That's not my words. They're his. He who seduces honest men to evil ways will fall into his own pit. Blameless men are the heirs to happiness. The rich man may think himself wise, but a poor man with sense will unmask him. When the virtuous triumph, there is great rejoicing. When the wicked are in the ascent, men take over. He who conceals his faults will not prosper. He who confesses and renounces them will find mercy. Happy the man who is never without fear. He who hardens his heart will fall into distress. A roaring lion, a hungry bear, such is the bad ruler of poor people. A prince lacking sense is rich in rapacity. He who hates avarice will lengthen his days. A man wanted for murder will be a fugitive until death. Do not lay hands on him. He who lives an honest life will be safe. He who wavers between two ways falls down in one of them. He who tills his land shall have bread and to spare. He who chases fantasies, poverty and plenty. A trustworthy man will be overwhelmed with blessings, but he who tries to get rich quickly will not go unpunished. It is not good to show partiality, but men will do wrong for a mouthful of bread. He chases after wealth, the man of greedy eye, not knowing that want is overtaking him. He who reproves another will enjoy more favor in the end than the flatterer. He who robs his father, his mother, saying, "No wrong here," is camaraderie for a brigade. The covetous man provokes disputes. He who trusts in Yahweh shall prosper. He who trusts in his own promptings is a fool. He whose ways are wise will be safe. He who gives to the poor shall never want. He who closes his eyes to them will bear many curses. When the wicked are in the ascendant, men take over. But when they perish, virtuous men multiply. And so, let's just look at a few keywords here. Blameless, virtuous, honest, trustworthy, and then happy. These words are all associated with those keeping the Torah, who understand and see the words of the Torah as wisdom from the Most High and as the instruction and teaching towards these things. And so these things are all associated. All of those words I just mentioned are all associated with those who keep the Torah, who are observant and obedient to the instruction, the teaching, the Torah of the Most High. We need to understand this, folks. We need to understand this because it is clear what happens when we turn from the Torah. When we turn from the Torah, we are turning our back. We are breaking the covenant, the vows of the covenant, and we are turning our back on our Creator. It's not Him that turns His back on us. We are the ones who turn our backs on Him. And when we do, we walk straight into curses, which is exactly the point in time we find ourselves in today. And so we need to get back to this very simple, very foundational and fundamental understanding that the Torah is for the believer. It's for us. It's for us, folks. Anyway, pressing 30 minutes. Boy, I could say a lot more, but we're going to cut her off there. Anyway, if you've liked this video, even if you haven't, please comment. If you have liked it, please like it. It helps get the video out to more and more people. And even if you haven't, comment. I'm down for a little talk. I've been down this road many times. But love to hear from you either way. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel as we continue our journey through the book of Proverbs, chapter by chapter, verse by verse. Until next Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern, we are out.